Hello, and welcome to NotesIn9. I'm David Leedy. Episode 69, Dynamically Expanding View Columns. Dr. JQuery is in the house. Okay, just a couple things before we get started on the show. I just wanted to, highlight that today is the 3-year anniversary of NotesIn9. I started this back in 7/11, 2009, so X-Pages came out in January, so I started playing with it right away and started screencasting about half a year later, I guess, and it's gone fast. So we're up to 15 hours of free content, and more than anything, I'm proud that I've roped 12 different people into coming on the show, sometimes with beer, sometimes with threats of photographs of singing karaoke. I'm not sure, but they've come on, and I'm very proud of that. And there's a lot of great content, and it's not just me. It's a team really of people and contributors who have given their time, and I thank them for their time. The best show overall is still Introduction to X-Pages, and that's usually one of the best shows of the months from Activity, and that has over 11,000 views and downloads, and that's a show I did back, I think, in 2010, and it's a 73-minute jump start to X-Pages. I haven't watched it probably since 2010, and I just kind of think that with all this activity, that's just a good sign that X-Pages is still growing. There's still a lot of new people coming on. Everything that I have shows that it looks like there's new people coming on all the time. So I think it's exciting, and God, I looked at that show once a couple months ago. Who'd want to watch that more than once or twice? I mean, come on, that's kind of crazy. Recently, I also did xpages.tv redesign, so that's not finished, but now there's the brand new xpages.tv website, which is more of a staging ground for some other things I've got planned. But if you're looking for older shows or shows on a different topic, that's the site to go to. Hopefully it's fairly easy and it works with all the browsers. If not, let me know. There's a feedback function. One of the things that is coming to xpages.tv at some point will be a tag cloud, so I've gotten some feedback from people asking about that. As soon as I figure out how to slap it in, I'll be slapping that in. I just haven't had much time to put into it lately. But there's a lot more content coming soon. I've got 2 new contributors lined up. One is a long-standing member of the community who I've been trying to get on for a long time, and the other is kind of a surprise, so let's just leave that one at that. And okay. Moving on, MW Lug. Next month in August, I'm going to be coming out of speaking retirement, at least live speaking, because I didn't do any last year. And I'm going to be speaking at MW Lug in Pittsburgh on August 15th to 17th. And I won't be alone. There'll be a lot of better people than me going to be speaking there. Jeremy Hodge is going to be there, which might be his first speaking gig. And Jeremy is a great X-Page developer if you're not already familiar with his name. Mark Roden, who's actually the contributor on this show, he'll be doing a lot more jQuery and I think some client-side JavaScript goodness. Mike McGarrell, who I've got the pleasure of working with, is doing something. I forget what, and there may be some more speakers. I really just haven't had time to keep up with some of the things that's going on in the community. So if you are inclined, it is free. It's in Pittsburgh, PA, which even though they have some kind of weird sports teams that aren't the Philadelphia Flyers, that's still a good city to go to. Also, and again, I haven't really been paying attention too much to this, but there's this technical tweet up coming on the 18th, and that's all I really know about it. So go to paulmooney.net, his website. All I know is it's something. It's going to be cool. It's there's going to be some X-Pagers involved. Matt White, Kerr Rainey, and Tim Davis are going to be hosting, I guess, some kind of discussion or something, but I really don't know because I haven't following it that much or so, but I plan to be there or helping out wherever I can, and it seems like it's an exciting event, and it's something to keep your eyes open to. Okay, now getting on with the meat of the show, Mark Roden is back with us, and Mark is a jQuery savant with X-Pages. He's just doing all this amazing stuff with X Pages and jQuery, and he's got a blog site at zomino.com and a demo site at demo.zomino.com. And if you're interested in jQuery and doing some fancier things with it, just go to his site and just strap in. And there's a lot of great articles and great content there. So in this show, what he's going to do is he's going to talk about expanding information in a view control. So with that, we'll go to the demo.
Hi, my name is Mark Roden, and I'm going to show you today how to create the view panel effect that I described in my blog about dynamically expanding X-Page view panel rows. For more information, check out my blog on www.zomino.com. What we are going to do today is we are going to see how we can turn a notes view into a simple view panel on a web page, and then from there, with a little bit of jQuery and a little bit of style sheet, we're going to turn it into a dynamic capability whereby when the user scrolls over the last column, it expands and shows the information behind it. You'll also see that there's a little arrow down here that goes up and down, up and down. So that's basically what we're going to do. So to start off with, we are going to go into our database and we are going to create a custom control. And on that custom control, I'm going to bind a data source, which will be a domino view, which will be the view that you saw just now in the database. And we're going to drag and drop those fields onto our custom control. I'm going to save it. I'm going to go to our X pages and I'm going to build an X page. And on that X page, I'm going to add my common container, which is just the outside wrapper for the look and feel, and I'm going to add the custom control. We're going to save that, and we're just going to take a look at what that looks like on the web now. So basically now we have that view on a web page, and we can scroll down. It's kind of ugly, kind of difficult to navigate. So we're just going to do a quick bit of cleanup for the sake of this demonstration. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the pager, and I'm going to set the width of this final column to be a fixed width. So open the data source, I'm going to do width. I'm going to do style equals width 300 pixels. Okay, and that changes our look and feel a bit, so we're now a little bit more spread out, so it's already beginning to look a bit more like what I showed you earlier as the final product. So what I wanted to do now was I just wanted to show you how a CSS Selector works. So what is that? Okay, so what I've got over here is I've got some snippets that I will make available with the video. And we're going to take that and we're going to stick that on our custom control. So I am going to add as a style. Now, what does this mean? Okay, well you can see our view panel here is called view panel 1. The ID is view panel 1, but if we actually look at the source of the HTML that is created and we search for view panel 1, there is more than one view panel 1. The actual view panel is this table here. X Pages adds the rest of these values, and in some other cases, as you can see up here, other values as well, to be able to create the functionality out of the box that you expect when you create a view panel. So instead of selecting view panel, we are going to need to select this ID, which ends with view panel 1, and that is what ID $ does. ID $ means select with select with the attribute ID ending in view panel 1. So if we save this, we're going to select the table whose attribute ID ends in view panel 1. And if we refresh that, we get an ugly looking table. It's bright yellow. Okay, that's cool. Alright, so the selector goes down the document model. So now we have the table. If I add a TR in here, that means select all of the table rows within the table ending in view panel 1. And if I do this, that selects all of the TDs within the TRs within the table that we were talking about. So if I refresh that, the whole table, the whole table is not yellow, because if you actually look at this top row, it's not a TD, it's actually a TH, it's a table header. So the selector, see this? It's a TH, a table header. So the selector does what we told it to. Now what I'm going to do with the selector is I'm actually going to narrow it down even further, and I'm going to say nth child 4. So this is only going to select the 4th TD within the TR within the table. And what you will see now is you will just see the outside column is now colored. This is a CSS selector, and Dojo exclusively, and for the most part jQuery, uses CSS selectors to be able to get document model objects and manipulate them, and we're going to see how I'm going to do that now. Okay, so I want to add, right now I haven't added jQuery to my particular X page, so I'm going to go back to my snippet, and I'm going to take these resources and I'm going to put those in my database, and as you can see here, it's referencing the JS folder and then my jQuery and then the CSS and then a custom theme jQuery UI. I'm actually using that for the little arrow that was going up and down. So if we go down here and we take a look at the web content folder, you will see that I have jQuery 1.7.1, that would help, and the jQuery UI CSS. These were added to the web content folder by dragging and dropping them, and this is a much easier way of managing the folder structure than it is to just add them directly to the database as files. So if I save that, that's not going to do anything to our web page yet. I've just added a couple of things to the page. Okay, so if I go back to my snippets, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this first section and I'm going to add it to the database itself. Right, well, alright, I'm going to get rid of that color because it's kind of painful on the eyes, but it demonstrated our point. So I'm going to go to the end of the custom control, and I am going to add a script tag, and then within that script tag I'm going to add this little bit of jQuery. And what does this do? Well, as we saw before, if we actually get anything, in this case our table core, that ends in view panel 1 and the trtd nth child 4, so I'm basically, that's my jQuery selector that says use all of the TDs in the last column. This each allows me to cycle through each of them. Imagine it's just like a for loop, or for each. Within each table cell, the $this refers to the actual element or object that we are manipulating, in this case the TD. So for every TD, if the height is greater than 100 pixels, I want to append this span to the end of it. So whatever is in our TD, I'm going to append to the end of it span. Because we've got jQuery, we can actually chain things together. So if I look at this full, I'm going to append a span to whatever's inside the TD, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to get the first child within the TV and I'm going to wrap it in a div. Okay, right, if you're still following me, I'm very impressed. So what is this going to do? I haven't saved it yet. Alright, let's take a look at in Firebug. Okay, so this is our table cell, and this is a span inside of the table cell. What I'm going to do is I'm going to append another span, so we're going to have span span. I'm then going to get the first child within the table cell, which is going to be this one, and I'm going to wrap this one in a div, and you'll see why in a second. So if I go back and I save my custom control, we've still got this highlighted in Firebug, and nicely what that will do is when I refresh the page, it will actually refresh Firebug, and what you can now see is I have that span that I still have highlighted, but it's now added another span, and it's wrapped what I'd originally chosen in this div. So what we've achieved is we've added this span at the bottom, and that's our little arrow 1 south. That is this. That's what we use the JQuery UI CSS for, just to give us that little arrow down. And then we've added this div class equals wrapper around the outside. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to add a little style to that wrapper. If I go back into my custom control, go back up the top here just so I know where it is and I don't lose it. So I'm now going to add a style to the wrapper that says only going to be 50 pixels high. Overflow is hidden. That means anything that is bigger than 50 pixels you are not going to see. It's not going to expand, it's not going to flow over, it's not going to put a scroll bar on it. It's going to be hidden, and I'm just going to put a little padding on the bottom just to make it look a bit better. So I've saved that, and I go back to Firefox. We take a look. Now it's beginning to look a little bit more like what we start, our end goal. There's no mouse over yet. We're going to add that in a minute, but you can now see everything is more consistent. This one, not so long. So this didn't get any wrap added to it because it's not bigger than 100 pixels. Okay. So now we need to add our animation. So I'm going to take the rest of this code. And this is it. This is all the code that we're going to need. And I'm going to put that on my custom control, and then we're just going to go through it. So if I put that in my script tag at the end, what we want to do is when I mouse over this, I want something to happen, and when I mouse out, I want something else to happen. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to bind two events. We're going to bind the mouse enter and the mouse leave event to the wrapper. So this jQuery selector selects all elements that have a class of wrapper. If you remember, we put the div with the class wrapper in each of the final cells. So for each in the last column, we're going to bind this event. And what are we going to do? Well, if you remember from my example, what I want to do when I mouse over this is I want every single table row except for this one to fade out. So what we're going to do is we're going to select them all. So selecting our table and selecting our table rows, but in this case this means greater than 0 because I don't want the top row to fade out. I want this one to be visible at all times, so I'm going to select all of the other ones. So selecting all of the rows greater than 0, which will include the one that we're on right now, but not the one that we're on right now. So what this does is this selects this wrapper, which is our div. Closest TR means the closest parent that is a table row. So select every table row except the first, except for this one. Stop any existing animation in case someone's wiggling their mouse around like a crazy fool, and fade it out to 0.2. So that gives us our effect of fading out everything else. I then want to change the down arrow to an up arrow, and we do this by using toggle class. Toggle class is basically the equivalent of add or remove, but you don't have to say if it's this then add it, or if it's that then remove it. So we toggle one north on, that's my up arrow, and we toggle one south off, because that's what we already have. We then stop any other animations going on just in case, and we make the height of this, which is our wrapper, or the div with the span with the class of wrapper, to be scroll height. Scroll height is the height of the actual data of the element itself on the page that is currently hidden. So we're then going to basically animate it, basically, make it expand so we can see it. So we're basically going to have that effect. And then on the mouse leave, it basically does the same thing in reverse. We are going to select all of the table rows but not this one, and we're going to fade them back to normal. We are then going to toggle the one north off and the one south back on, and we are going to scroll this back to the initial height, which was 50 pixels. And that's it. So going back into Firefox now, remember this is what we had before with nothing happening. If we refresh the page for one final time, we now have the effect that we wanted, that we looked at in the first place. If you watch the little arrow, it goes to an up arrow, goes to a down arrow, and that's what we have, and that's how you do your effect. So what we've done is we've taken a view panel, and in a very short period of time and with a very small amount of code, we've created a visually appealing effect for the user to be able to get to their information. And I'm not saying that this is what you have to do with all of your view panels, but part of the reason I wanted to do this was to highlight how easy it is to be able to do things in jQuery and how effective that can actually make your user interface. By just being aware of what is possible, you can go and Google and say, how do I fade things in jQuery? How do I animate things in jQuery? How do I select things in jQuery? All of the information is out there. It's how I find a lot of things. I'm by no means a great expert in jQuery, but if you know what is possible, then the world's your oyster. Thank you very much for listening. Check out my blog at www.zomino, however many W's that was, at zomino.com, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks very much.
And that's the demo. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate you coming back, and looking forward to your next show. I know I kind of sat on this one for a while, so hopefully I'll get the next one out a little quicker than this one. If you have any questions for me, and gosh, I hope they're not going to be on jQuery, but here's my contact information, and I thank you for your time.